Welcome, geeks, to the 1-year anniversary show of Rockin The Code World with dotNetDave. 1 year, woohoo! Celebrate! Sorry, my video is going to be choppy until that decides to complete. StreamYard can't handle both at the same time. But welcome everybody to the show. I'm really excited, to bring you this 1-year anniversary show. I was thinking about this morning, and it's show number 38, and I really don't know what happened in the last year. It's gone by so fast. There must be some term of, losing time because of COVID shutdown. I'm not sure. But anyway, welcome. We have a really awesome show lined up for today with Cathrine Wilhelmsen. I'm sorry. I practiced that before the show, and I'm sure I screwed it up. I'm really excited. She's from Norway, and it's first time speaking with her. So this is going to be really interesting. We're going to be speaking about Azure data, blogging, speaking, however much time we have to talk about. So make sure you have your questions ready for Cathrine, and so you can get the info you need out of her, especially about the Azure stuff. So start typing your questions. And we have special giveaways today. I'd like to announce that besides the normal CodeWretch giveaway, we have 3 extra ones. 2 will be prize packs from me and my website, including a copy of my book. And then the last one, at the very end of the show, so you're going to have to stick around, and you have to be on the chat when this happens, is we're going to give away $100 Stratus bucks, which I think Mahesh says is worth back $200. So that's pretty cool. So lots of great things for today, for this special show. I'm glad you're all here, and I'm glad you tuned in. And, I can't think of a better way to, spend a hot, sunny day in San Diego with all of my friends that watch me around the world. So let's get going. So if you want to win any of the prizes today, please, you can do this on Facebook. What was the other one? Facebook, YouTube, and I think just Facebook and YouTube are working right now. For some reason, there's something going on with Twitter. Oh, and LinkedIn. So use social media, LinkedIn and Facebook. Use Rockin Code World 21, and also do it on the chat here. And at different parts of the show, we're going to randomly pick a winner. And so that'll be exciting. And I will ship my books and everything anywhere in the world. I don't normally do that because it's so dang expensive, but I will for the anniversary show. So start social mediaing this, or putting in the chat. I don't see any yet. So anyway, stay tuned, because we're going to give one away pretty quick. So I want to give thanks for this, for this 1-year anniversary. And of course, the main person I have to thank is Mahesh. Mahesh, if you don't know, is the founder and owner of C# Corner. He's a really good friend of mine. I love hanging around him. The first time I got to meet Mahesh was at the MVP Summit. I think in 2016 or 2017. Mahesh will have to tell me. And that's kind of where we connected at the MVP Summit in Washington. And he decided to like me, and I decided to like him. And so we now have a bromance going on, I guess. But, I really want to thank Mahesh for bringing this idea. This was not my idea. This was his idea. I don't remember what sparked his idea, but, Rockin The Code World was his idea. And I really appreciate it, especially since it's given me an outlet for things to do, since I haven't been able to speak at a conference live in 2 years. And so thank you, Mahesh. And, I also want to say thanks to Mahesh, because he sent me some truffles, which I had just had one right before the show started. And he sent me a bouquet of flowers, which I put on Twitter yesterday. So thank you, Mahesh, for that special recognition. It really made me feel good, because I don't get gifts like that. I think it was the first flowers I've ever received in my life, and so it made me feel really good. So thanks, Mahesh. The show wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you in C# Corner. And I want all of my viewers to thank these people too, because none of us get enough recognition, and so make sure you reach out to the people I'm thanking and tell them how much you love this show, and so we can keep doing it and keep bringing the show on a weekly basis. Of course, I have to thank Simon. He's been my producer this whole time. And I just, I made a video during the Azure Summit, but I just can't think of a better producer ever than Simon for my show. He's always really nice, even when he had COVID. And, he just makes my life and putting on this show so much easier. When I talked to Mahesh about this show, I told him one of the things I don't want to end up doing all the work for the show like I did for my podcast. And so Simon helps me, do some of the work that I don't like doing. And he's behind the scenes, running the show all the time. And so staying up late, like 11 p.m. or something like that in India. So thank you, Simon. I can't do this show without you. And, I can't wait for, what we're going to do in the next year. And not only with the show, but the conferences that we're putting on C# Corner too. Of course, I have to thank all my guests. Here's all the guests I've had on the show, including Cathrine. And so I had an amazing lineup of guests. And I want to thank every single one of you for, having the guts to be on this show the first year, especially the early ones, because we didn't know what the show was how the show was gonna pan out. And my first guest was Scott Hunter, who's the number 3 Scott in .NET land, and I really appreciate him being on the show. And he's actually going to be on the show in November again, so I'm really looking forward to that. And all of my other guests, and you've all been awesome. It's been a great time not only speaking with you, but getting to know some of you that I don't know, and actually learning things. I learned on this show too. Even though this show's for you, it's I do get to learn a bunch on this show. So thank you, everybody, for being on the first year of my show. I really appreciate it. You've made this show such a success. I don't think people would have tuned in if it was just me. And I want to thank all of you out there watching the show. I asked 3 times for you to tweet pictures of yourself so I can put them here, but no one did it. So I took the only fan picture I know of, and this is Mahesh's daughter watching my show with Carl Franklin. So I don't even know her name. So thank you to her, and thank you to all of the other thousands and thousands of people who have watched this show in the last year. This is why we do this show. This show is for you, and it's for us too, because we get something out of it, but it's mainly for you. And so I hope I can keep bringing you awesome guests and awesome topics for the next year, and beyond that too. So thanks, everybody. I can't say it enough. You made this last year a little brighter during this dark time we've had in the world. So thanks again. This is my last plug for the Hello World Cookbook, because my domain goes out of expires in 4 days. So if I don't get a bunch of recipes for the Hello World Cookbook in the next 4 days, this project's going to go on the back burner. So those of you who haven't seen me talk about this for every show, the Hello World Cookbook is a project I've been trying to do the last 2 years to fund the Voice of Slum NGO in India. When I was there in 2019, I went to the NGO, and it was pretty much the most moving experience I think I've ever had traveling the world, being in the slums in Delhi, and being with the awesome kids that were there that day, and also learning about the awesome founders of the Voice of Slum. So currently, all of the profit from my code performance book goes to the Voice of Slum, but I wanted to do more. And so This cookbook is full of recipes, will be full of recipes from technical people just like you and me from all around the world. And you India people, I haven't got enough recipes from you. I love Indian food. And so send me your Indian recipes, please. Anyway, so this is going to be full of recipes from all over the world. And so we can, help these kids in the slums in India, because, I know I live in America and we have pretty crappy, areas, pretty crappy parts of our towns here in America, but none of that is even close to what goes on in a slum in India. So, us, the countries that we live in besides India, America, Europe, we can help these kids. And all it takes is your donation or submitting your recipe to the Hello World Cookbook. So I hope you will submit your recipe in the next 4 days so we can get this going. I need something to do for the holidays. So let's get this going so I can put this out at the beginning of the year. Okay. All right. I also have a new section on my website about code performance. I'm updating it right now with even performance tips from .NET 6. So I hope you'll check that out. There's the URL, and go there for performance tips. All right, so let's do the first giveaway. Rockin Code World 21. Simon, you ready? I know I saw a few people, and this will be some .NET Tips swag from DevExpress and my latest code performance book. So Simon, are you ready? Let's see what's going on. Simon's not ready. Okay, so we'll do this in a little bit as soon as Simon tells me it's okay. So in the meantime, make sure you tweet or not tweet, because that's not working, but Facebook, LinkedIn, and on this chat, Rockin Code World 21, and we'll give away some fabulous prizes today as soon as Simon gets it working. So maybe there's a bug in his code. No, we don't make bugs, right? All right. Oh, it's time for our guests. So I want to welcome Cathrine. Your bio kind of went down the screen. Cathrine loves data and coding, as well as teaching and sharing knowledge. She is based in Norway, a country I've always wanted to go to, and works as a senior business intelligence consultant, focusing on data integration and data warehousing. Outside of work, she's active in the Azure and Microsoft data communities as a Microsoft Data Platform MVP, a fellow MVP, international speaker, blogger, organizer, chronic volunteer. I know how that is. And she blogs at her website, which is right there on the screen. And if you follow Twitter, you can get her Twitter handle there. So welcome, Cathrine.
Thank you, and happy anniversary.
Thank you. I'm glad you're on my show for my anniversary show.
Yes, me too.
I'm glad I got to meet you virtually, at least. And, maybe someday, one of your conferences will invite me out there so I can go to Norway. I've always wanted to go to Norway. There's actually a couple of shows I watch based out of Norway, and on Netflix or something like that. And Norway's been one of those countries I've wanted to visit. It gets cold there, so I live by the beach, so I just want to visit your country. I don't know if I want to stay there, but
no, you can come visit. You said earlier in your intro that it's a nice sunny day there, and it's dark and cold and rainy here right now. But yeah, definitely, if you can come during winter, I think that would be amazing to experience the snow, maybe even northern lights. So I'll make sure.
I've never seen the northern lights. Yeah,
I've actually only seen it once myself, and that was on a flight leaving the U.S., which was strange. But yeah, I think we need to do something, a larger conference up north during winter. I think that would be cool.
Yeah. I've always wanted to go there. Now I forgot what I was going to say. Well, I like going to any country to visit, well, except maybe the Middle East countries, but yeah, I'd love to go there someday. So I know already today someone has hooked me up with the guy who runs the NDC conference there. So maybe something can happen. I don't think that will happen this year, but maybe next year for the NDC conference there.
Yeah, so definitely. That is an amazing conference. So if you get the chance to go, do that.
Yeah. I spoke at one last year virtually, but yeah, I got to start paying more attention to that. Oh, it's in Oslo on November 29th through December 3rd. Oh, that's during that's the 30th is my birthday. Oh, dang it. That would have been awesome to be in Norway on my birthday.
It would. Maybe another year. I'll cross my fingers for that.
But I would like to come out for the winter because I grew up in the snow actually, and I do miss that during the holidays. I miss the snow. It's never snows in San Diego, and so I would love to come there. I know when I spoke in the Ukraine, the girls there who was running the conference said I really need to come back during the winter because they have such a beautiful winter festival there that I have to come back and see. And so I've been trying to get back to the Ukraine too. But anyway.
Now it's the opposite of me. I keep trying to come back to sunny, nice, warm places. So I guess what you don't have is what you want.
You're welcome, San Diego, anytime you want. I'll be your tour guide. I live about a mile from the beach, and it's San Diego. It's just a phenomenal city, and there's so much to do here. You'll never run out of things to do. I have, because I've lived here most of my life, but it's an awesome city to visit. It's really expensive to live here, but it is.
I'm from Norway.
Is it expensive there?
Probably more expensive. Yeah, one of the most expensive countries in the world. So,
oh, really?
Yeah.
But anyway, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I know this will be a great show, and for everybody who just joined, make sure you tweet your make a comment for your questions for Cathrine, so we can get them answered during the show. So let's talk about Azure. So Azure Data.
Yes.
So what do you want to talk about Azure Data?
Oh, there's so much to talk about.
I'm celebrating. I forgot to tell everybody, this is how I'm celebrating. I'm celebrating with my ginger beer. That's how I'm celebrating.
I have ginger tea, actually. So I mean, it's kind of the same. No, Azure Data. So many things to talk about, and it's kind of exciting for me to be on your show as well, because I'm coming more from the data analytics side. Yeah. Coding is more something I do occasionally and as a hobby. But I know most people who are watching are probably coming more from the application side, working with data as part of applications. And that is probably like the completely different part of what I do on a daily basis, which is gathering all the data in massive chunks and loading that into analytical solutions. But yeah, Azure right now, so many amazing things in the past couple of years. Cosmos DB is probably, one of the things that I keep hearing about that I've never been able to work with myself. So maybe some people in the chat watching this have some experience with that.
Well, I have to tell you, since you mentioned Cosmos DB, which I've been using, I really like Cosmos DB, and in I think November, December, I forget. I'm going to have the PM from the Cosmos DB team back on the show. And so Mark Brown's not only an awesome guy, but he knows his shit about, oops, sorry, Simon. He knows his stuff about Cosmos DB. And so that'll be a great show to watch, especially for you if you're wanting to get into Cosmos DB.
Yeah. But no, what do you want to talk about today? I feel like I can talk about the things that I love forever. But if there's anything that you
Since you kind of mentioned you're on the other side, kind of explain what that other side is. What do you, as a data, analytic person, what do you do to tell the other programmers what you actually do?
Yeah. So if you're an app developer, you're mostly working with transactional systems, like all the data being read, being written all the time, all these little fast, frequent updates that you have to work with. I'm on the other side. So what I do is mostly pulling all of that data and then transforming it into more of a reporting solution, analytical solution. Mostly to help people understand, what has happened in the past with whether it's, sales or an app, performance, HR, it could be anything really. Reading data from sensors, it could be pretty much any kind of data. And trying to just kind of reshape that into a format that's more suitable for reports and dashboard. So you can see trends, what has happened. And then you have the smart people who are like after me in the chain of data is, more on the machine learning side, AI side, who can then pick up on all of that data and then really start digging into the insights of that. But no, basically I pick up all the data and we store it somewhere, transform it, reshape it, and make it easier for C-level people mostly to get insights and information out of that.
So you're kind of in between us and the machine learning people.
Yes. So, and what I usually say is I work more on the data integration side. So it's more of the back end side. I don't create the shiny, pretty reports and dashboard. So I do all the heavy lifting. And a lot of people think of that as, I hate doing this part. You're cleaning data. You're, making sure that everything is nice and ready to go. And I love that side. It's just something that fits me. And then I can, send it off to the smart machine learning people or the people who create the pretty reports, and I enjoy it. And you need a few people like me to make everything work smoothly in that big machinery.
I totally agree, and because I've been in this world for a long time, and I've been in the position of I've been a lead or principal for a really long time, but I've also been hiring. I've also run teams. I worked at a biotech company that I ran all the software development worldwide. And that company always comes to mind when I think about what I'm about to say, because, that's when, I was able to hire personally my first business intelligence person, right? Who basically does what you do. And not in the cloud, because the cloud wasn't around back then. But and I learned that you guys are not only really needed, but worth every penny that you get paid, because
I hope so.
Because developers just will have a hard time doing that if they're forced to, which I'm sure many are, because of companies don't like to pay for people like you. But I could tell everybody out there, especially you managers and things like that, people like this, you have to have in your team. I mean, that's all there is to it. You have to have good database people in your team and not let developers do it, right? And I get in this conversation all the time about, why shouldn't developers, create databases and, work on the indexes and things like that. And whenever I say, because I've said for a long time, because the crappiest databases I've ever seen were written by software engineers, the crappiest ones, right? And so I've been very adamant that we don't do that, because we're not very good at it. And, people come back to me and say, well, why not? And I go, well, do you want your database people like you writing applications? And they all say no. And I go, exactly. This is what I'm talking about. We can't be good at everything, right? And
I think that for me, that's an excellent point. It's like, I could write an application and work on that if I had to, but I would prefer to leave that up to the experts, and it goes the other way. We can all learn these things, and I'm sure that there are many developers who would do a fantastic job, but it is a different skill set. We're working with databases in a very different way, and for me as well, my education is in programming, so I came from the Java world and having only worked with more of apps in that way back in school. And then coming into the data warehousing world, I had to kind of relearn everything because it is a different way of working with that data. So I have no doubt that there are many smart people out there, great developers who could do that. But it's kind of like, do you really want to? Do you really want to spend all of that time? Or would you rather have someone else just come in and do that, and you can spend time doing the fun things that you enjoy?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I know, you can create great BI reports or solutions, probably, using things like C#, but I don't think I would recommend it. Is like, even if you have a hammer, it's not going to solve every task that you have in your house. So
Right.
yeah,
That's
let's work together instead. I think that's the best way.
yeah, I think a lot of teams struggle with that, including I think the team I'm working on, because I don't think we have any people like you on our team, not that I'm aware of, and so we struggle with that. We struggle with trying to get the data in the right way for us to show it correctly in reports, and I know we are doing probably more work than we have to because we don't have what you do, right?
Yeah.
And if you're just sucking it out of SQL Server, that's not what we're talking about, right? It's
No,
completely different.
yeah, you can make it work, but the kind of the crucial part for me here is that layer that is my specialty. You're remodeling, you're reshaping, and you're transforming that data into, the format that you have. So I'm sure, it's similar in some ways that you're taking data and you're working with APIs. Like, you need to make sure that you're presenting it in the right way for the next person who is going to consume that data. And that's kind of what I do for reports and analytical solutions.
Yeah. So it is, back in the, we used to call it data warehousing. And so in Azure land, is that what the Azure Data Factory is? Is that kind of like the data warehouse, or?
No, so
See,
if
I
we're
don't
talking
even
about,
know in Azure land, in
oh,
Azure
well,
world.
I can talk about this forever, which is a great thing I'm here. No, so in the Azure world, we're still using the term data warehouse. That is still something that is relevant, although the big new shiny is, you have data lakes and data lake houses, and data mesh is, one of the newer things as well. So it's constantly evolving, but at the core, you still have that data warehouse, which is basically where your data lives in analytical solutions. So on that side, we have Azure Synapse Analytics, and I saw a question on that come in as well, with if I work with Azure Synapse Analytics, and I do. That is the big new shiny. And what that is it's basically just kind of multiple products in the Azure world that they packed into one offering. So it's more of a platform, and that contains the data warehouse part of it. So that is specialized databases built for presenting a lot of data at the same time. So it's built for aggregating things very quickly, so you can get those terabytes of data that you can present in reports and things like that. In addition to that, they have the pipelines element, which is the Azure Data Factory side of it. So here's where it gets kind of confusing. Azure Data Factory is a separate product, but they've also baked it into Azure Synapse Analytics, calling it the pipelines. And that is the data integration and data transformation part of it.
Okay.
Yeah. And in Azure Synapse Analytics, just to make it even more difficult for people to understand what this thing is, they've also brought in the Spark elements, Apache Spark, for big data and doing machine learning. Plus, underneath all of that, you have the data lake for actually storing all of your raw data. So Azure Synapse Analytics, I think, is the number one thing in the Azure world right now, except for Power BI, which is the reporting layer on top. And I see Microsoft just, pouring all their resources into that. So if you are working with data, just kind of keep that in the back of your head. It's worth looking into at least.
Awesome. Do you work full time, or do you do contracting?
I'm a consultant, so full time,
yeah.
but for clients, yeah.
Okay, just to make sure I know. So if I'm at a place and we need somebody, then now I know somebody to call.
Yeah, and I mean, with the last year and a half as well, everyone working remotely, even if you're in the US or India or Australia, we will find ways to work together.
Well, it looks like you have awesome internet there, because your picture is so clear. you
Oh,
know?
well, I hope so. I mean, for me, working from home for a year and a half, I had to kind of upgrade a few things. So I still have some renovation to do in my office, but
Yeah.
my computer stuff was my priority. So hopefully that's
Yeah,
okay.
I just ordered a Cat 6 cable because someone told me that I might be able to squeeze a little bit more out if I buy a Cat 6 cable. I think all mine are Cat 5s, and so I'm waiting for that to come in. Because I watch my videos, sometimes I go, what the heck? You know, that's not the way it looks on my computer.
Right. Works on my machine.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, you're right. We did have some questions from Simon. So Simon wants to know what is the roadmap to data analytics? Is that kind of what you said, or?
I think I kind of touched on that, and Simon, correct me if there's something else that you want me to cover. But I think the other thing I mentioned is the data lakehouse, which
Mhm.
is kind of the next step in terms of data warehousing. What they're trying to do there is to get more real-time analytics, because data warehousing for many years, it's kind of a heavy solution because you have to do all of that
Mhm.
transformation and lifting and reshaping. The data lakehouse is kind of just the next step with cloud scale hardware and
Mhm.
the new things that we can do in the cloud right now that we couldn't do when we were stuck with our own hardware. You can run things like Spark on top of your raw file stored in a data lake and
Mhm.
do all of that, almost real time. So
Mhm.
it's the same concept. You're still kind of, to me, it's kind of still like a data warehouse. They just have to give it a new name to sell it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
And then a slight shift in the technology and how you build those solutions as well. Of course, I'm not going to undermine it. It is, it's a complex area, but it's still a data warehouse in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So Simon followed up and he said, what should be the first step? Learn Power BI?
So actually, yes, I think that Power BI is a great step or a place to start because it is so intuitive. And I have to give Microsoft a lot of credit for the work they've done in Power BI.
Mhm.
It is, I think I heard someone once say that they wanted to make Power BI the PowerPoint of business intelligence, which is make it intuitive, make it fun, make it easy to kind of drag and drop and build a lot of intelligence into that platform so you
Mhm.
can very easily get insights into your data,
Yeah.
and it works with so many sources. So if you want to kind of get into more of that side and working with the data in a different way than just through apps, Power BI is fun. It's fun to
Yeah.
work with and it's fun to learn, and a lot of people come into kind of my world from the Power BI side, also from other business areas. Controllers, finance
Mm.
side usually come in from the Power BI side because they've been working with actually creating the reports, and
Mhm.
then they realize that, hey, data is kind of fun. They
Mhm.
have there's an inner geek that pops out when they start working with Power BI, and then they realize that there's so much more to this world, and they get kind of sucked into to more of my side.
Yeah.
But yeah, Power BI definitely, take a look at that.
Yeah.
I've used it. So like I said, I'm more on the backend side, more on the data integration side in my projects. But Power BI is something I used for my own blog analytics.
Mhm.
I created a dashboard for myself just to have an easier way of seeing and tracking those stats instead of logging into multiple different areas and doing that manually. So I can just pop up a nice dashboard, and it's easy to get all my pink colors and my branding in there as well. So
Yeah.
it's fun.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I think there were some Power BI stuff that was used for like tracking COVID and stuff. I'm pretty
Yes.
sure there was one that was kind of popular for a while that was tracking the COVID stuff. It was all done in Power BI. Yeah.
Yep. I
Yeah.
saw a lot of solutions on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, oh, and Simon says I need a Power BI for my show. Yeah, probably because I keep bugging him about the numbers of my show every once in a while, and he probably doesn't want to do that anymore, right, Simon?
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely build a Power BI report and pull the data from different services.
yeah,
You're streaming to multiple areas. I'm sure you can get all the numbers from there, and yeah, it's a fun way of starting.
Well, Simon, once you learn Power BI, then you can do that, right?
Yep.
I'll do the front end. You can do the Power BI part, and we can have everybody's instantly look and see what's going on with the show. I do want to give a shout out to somebody. Where is the from Tasmania, Australia? Thank you so much for watching from Australia. Australia is another one country I've always wanted to go to. I've tried to go there many times through NDC, but they never pick me up. So if you can poke at somebody there in Australia, so I can come to Australia, it's always a country I've wanted to go to. I think probably because when I was in my early 20s and then the United States Navy, we did a what we call a Westpac, where we're gone for like 9 months, and we were supposed to go to Australia. And we were so happy because there was a lot of us that wanted to go there. But at the last minute, they sent us to Africa instead, which was, we were kind of bummed out about that. So I've always wanted to go there too. So thanks for watching from Australia. And, if you want to win on the show today, make sure you do pound Rockin Code World 21 and put what country you're from. And so I can kind of get a sense of, where everybody's watching from. So we don't have any more questions.
Yeah, I think I see.
Are you still happy with Hugo? And what's Hugo?
Hugo is the new blogging platform. I recently migrated, so I assume that Paul has either looked at my blog or my Twitter for that. But yeah, so I migrated from WordPress to Hugo this summer. And short answer is yes, I'm still very happy with it. And the reason I chose Hugo is, first of all, I wanted to move away from dynamic WordPress. It was fairly heavy. So I started using WordPress back in 2003 or 4, like very early. So I've been using that for so many years. I got used to it. I learned how to use it. But lately it was just too bloated, too heavy for a simple blog that I was running, basically. It was more of a CMS system that you wanted to use with, if you had a web shop or something like that. So it got kind of bloated, and also looking into more of the security side, working with, the database side and PHP and all the plugins and security issues. You kind of had to stay on top of that for, every single week. Every time you updated something, you had to look into, is this, safe to do? So I decided to move away from that dynamic website to a static website builder. And I think I looked into Gatsby and Jekyll and Hugo. And I landed on Hugo partly because I had some of my good friends who had migrated to it, so they were happy with it, and I had someone I could ask if there was anything. But also because it just kind of worked. I spun up a very quick little test for myself in Visual Studio Code using containers, and it worked. And I just okay, I'm just going to go with this because, this is working. And I found out later that one of the creators is Norwegian. So I was like, okay, well, this is cool. This is, from my country. I'll stick to this. But yeah, I'm very happy with it. I spent a lot of time this summer and I loved every minute of it because I decided to build everything from scratch. So in Hugo, you can choose predefined themes and just install them and then create the content. Obviously, I can do that. I have to build my website from scratch. It's how I got started, 20 years ago when I was a kid. So I dug into everything. I had to learn the Go language. I had to learn the templating system and built up, every piece of functionality from scratch. And it was such a fun project for me to work with. I think I enjoyed that more than the actual blogging part, to be honest. So it's a hobby project. I absolutely, I love it. And it's easy to use in, I use Visual Studio Code containers. So it's just, go in, new blog post, and then commit to my GitHub repo. And then it's automatically being built and published to my website. So It is, And it's kind of fun as well because, looking back to you when I got started, so I was about 10 when I started learning HTML and CSS because it was fun back then. I was in Notepad typing code by hand and then, uploading that through FTP somewhere, and you had a website. And we're kind of back to that, except you automate half of the steps.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just we kind of go in circles here. That I'm guessing in 10 years from now they're going to do something dynamic again because that's going to be easier. And then iterations.
Well, I started my first website in 1994, and we didn't have tools back then. We wrote websites in Notepad back then.
Yep.
And then we got then Microsoft came out with the program that I used a lot because it made it easier, and that was called Front Page, I think.
Oh, yes.
Way back Front Page days. Yeah. And then it's moved on to what we have now. And I personally have not been very happy with WordPress the last couple of years, especially with the user experience changes they've done. Just made it, harder for me to do my blogs, and I've yelled at them, but they don't listen. So I'm looking. Yeah, I'll check that out and see if they'll make it easier and get off the frickin' WordPress train.
And also, everything except my domain name right now is free. So that is also a great thing. With WordPress, you needed to pay for web hosting in some shape or form. Right now, everything is free. Hugo is free to use. Visual Studio Code is free to use. If you're using GitHub or some other kind of code repository, you're not paying for that. And then for deployment options, you can choose between Azure Static Web Apps, which is free for personal use, or I decided to go with NetLifey, which is also free for personal use. So unless you're working with those, large scale enterprise websites where you probably have to pay for hosting, for personal projects, everything is free. So you only have to pay for the domain name. And I really like that because it lowers the bar for everyone around the world to, have something that is uniquely yours and your own page, your own branding. You're not locked into some other kind of product or, on someone else's website.
Right.
And I think that's kind of cool. So, if you don't have your own little personal space, your own resume, blog, something, I absolutely encourage you to go ahead and look into that.
Maybe I can get rid of the ads on WordPress too. I mean, I paid to get rid of the ads for dotnettips.com, but I haven't on my other blogs because I'm just too cheap, to pay for the other three, no
ads, just free.
Yeah, I'll check it out. I'm glad somebody asked you that. So now I have something to go look at. How much of SQL you write in your day-to-day job? So Simon's asking.
Yeah, so SQL code is basically my day-to-day job. It's what I do, and obviously it depends. So working with business intelligence, a lot of my work is understanding the business, talking to business users, and figuring out which questions they want answered. But in terms of development, it's SQL code. Yeah. Right, queries to pull out data, stored procedures. I'm constantly working with data. And that is probably another thing I can mention with Azure Synapse Analytics is you can now use SQL to query files in your data lake, which is cool because it means that I can use the language that I know that I use every day to work with data without having to do those other steps of reshaping it and loading it into a database. So that's kind of cool. So there is one person in the SQL Server community called Itzik Ben-Gan. He's written, pretty much all of the T-SQL books that you have. He says that his first language is T-SQL. So I'm not quite there yet, but I think it's probably one of the higher ones on my languages that I speak.
Yeah, cool. So we talked a little about blogging. So before we run out of time, let's see if we can get to at least one other topic, and that's about speaking, like getting started, presentation skills, PowerPoints. And so how long have you been speaking?
So I've been speaking since 2014. And people who meet me now, they don't believe me when I say this, but back then I was so shy and so socially awkward that I could barely talk to people. And I think a lot of people probably recognize that in our world.
Me too.
Um,
Yeah.
and I had trouble small talking to people. I was
Mhm.
I was the one standing in the corner, like, please don't notice me because I don't know how to handle the situation. But then I got into the community, and I think this is probably the same regardless of technical community. But you kind of find your little tribe,
Mhm.
your family, people who are like-minded, who are also interested in the topics that you are.
Mhm. Right.
And they kind of nudged me, aggressively nudging, I would say, but in a friendly way. So I started speaking in 2014, and since then, I just kept going because it was life changing to me. It helped me to get out there. I got to travel to events. I got to share things. At the same time that I built my network all around the world.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was really life changing for me. So 7 years now, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, I went from local conferences to, I think, the biggest one so far is Microsoft Ignite. Being on
Hmm.
stage there was,
Yeah.
mind blowing.
Yeah.
I would never have guessed that 7 years ago.
Yeah, well, that's basically exactly the way I was, 27 plus years ago. I was, I've told this story before where, I was so shy that, even in high school, I was an expert in getting in front of the class to talk to people, and, and when I started to learn how to speak, I would rather pretty much die than speak, and David McCarter is still kind of like that. When I tell people now that, I'm shy, they just laugh at me and I go, no, 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 that's dotNetDave. David McCarter still is pretty shy. It's the
Right?
dotNetDave is what you're seeing, the dotNetDave persona. And but yeah, I would have, but and this is why I've done complete talks on speaking and things like that, is because for me it really opened up and got me out of my shell, I think it has dramatically helped my career, right? And kind of like what you just said, is that it's allowed you and I to go around the world and speak at, meet other people and speak at conferences. And I mean, that wouldn't have happened if I wasn't a speaker, and an okay one,
Yeah.
and yeah, and so yeah, I cannot, recommend enough to. I know it's hard for all of you out there, but to go out and speak and get in front of people, believe me, I was there. I still remember my first conference, like a big conference. It was here in San Diego, and the conference asked me to come speak, and I was terrified. And back then we wore suits, to when we spoke in front of people. Of course, don't do that now, but I was literally terrified to do. I did 2 talks, and I was totally terrified.
Yeah,
And
I'm
yeah,
still like that. I still get super nervous. My Fitbit reports that you're in fat burning zone now just because of my heart rate.
yeah,
But yeah, what I usually say to people is, you always have a story to share. You can
hmm
always teach someone else, even if you're 1 year into your career, even if
hmm
you're still a student. You
yeah,
always have something that you can teach others, and I really, really encourage you to go and do that. And there are like multiple steps or layers that you can go through. Maybe you want to start with a blog just to get comfortable sharing things to others. Maybe you want to move on to lunch and learns in your own company, or local user groups. Like, you don't have to start on a stage in front of 1,000 people.
no, no,
That would kill pretty much everyone.
yeah,
But do it gradually, and get
hmm
used to sharing your story, your perspective. And if you're working with code, it's so easy. For me,
hmm
and probably for you as well. You see all of these gurus out there who are like, oh, we're idolizing them, and we'll never be as good as them. And so we're kind of telling ourselves that, what's the point of me doing this? But the point is that they don't have your experience. So
right,
if you
right,
focus on that, on sharing what you've gone through and how you've done things and learned things, I can guarantee you that there will be people out there who are extremely thankful for you helping them in some way. So
yeah,
yeah, go do that. It's a
yeah.
challenge.
And that's why my goal is always, if I reach one person in the audience, no matter how big that audience is, I've succeeded. Right.
Yes.
That's what I think of. If I just reach one, if I work 40 hours on a presentation and I reach one person, that was worth it.
It's
Right.
worth it.
Because
I completely agree.
I changed one person's life somehow, you know, and that to me is the biggest reward of speaking for sure. Yeah. To me, at least. Yeah.
I agree.
So before we run out of time, let's talk really quick about, because I could talk about speaking forever, but let's talk a little bit about becoming an MVP and maybe a little bit about presenting at Microsoft Ignite. You just touched on that, but so how did you become a Microsoft MVP?
So I did that, and just to explain it for anyone who is wondering what that is, it is an award that you get for the community involvement over the past year or so. So it's not a technical award per se. It's more on how you contribute to your local community. But usually you have to do something technical to, be a part of that Microsoft world. And I got my MVP award actually fairly quickly after I got started with speaking and blogging, because I went all in. So I helped restart the local Microsoft Data Platform user group. I started a conference, a yearly conference. Back then it was called SQL Saturdays. Now they're called Data Saturdays. I started speaking and I did blogging, and all of those things combined. I'm just grateful that Microsoft saw that and said that, you're actually doing something for your local community in Norway, so we want to give you this award. And I've received it every year since, so I guess I'm, doing something right. But it's all about giving back and paying it forward and sharing, technical things in user groups, speaking, blogging, answering, questions on forums. There are many ways to becoming an MVP. For me, it happened to be mostly speaking. And once you get sucked into this world, it's kind of hard to stop. I'm sure you can relate to that as well. It's so rewarding to do these things. It can be really exhausting, but also so rewarding.
Can be very exhausting. Yes, I agree. And before I forget, now that we've met each other, I can't wait to meet you in person. Hopefully at the next MVP summit if you go.
I'm hoping we can go in person.
Yeah, because I that's one thing that, pretty much my number 2 favorite part of the MVP conference is, spending a week with all the people I don't get to spend time with, during the year from around the world, because, you get every MVP from around the world, comes to Microsoft for a week. And that's when I get to see all of these people that I've, not only that I know, or, see in print and things like that, but people I know, and that's the only week I get to see them in person, and virtual is fine, but, in person is so much better.
And it's like that with every local event. Like we call it the hallway track, where you meet people and you connect and you share those stories. Like that's the most valuable thing of a conference to me. And I miss that. So let's hope that we can do that soon.
Okay, so we have one. We're probably going to be the final question. In ADF solution, how to make sure strict data compliance requirements are met, and how to ensure the data does not leave a certain geographic location. Yeah, that's a big one. I first ran into this when I had to deal with Canada. So yeah, I know how that is.
Yeah. So in terms of data not leaving a certain geography, Azure is your friend. You can pick and choose where you want to store your data. So make sure that, databases and data lakes are in that specific geographical region. And then specifically for Azure Data Factory, you can choose to set up something called an integration runtime, which is kind of like a gateway. You can set that up in a specific region, and that ensures that the data in transit that you're reading and transforming also does not leave that region. So you can choose to set up your entire Azure infrastructure, including Azure Data Factory, within geographical regions, and then that will never leave that region. So it's also very simple. It's a drop down within Azure Data Factory. Choose this region, and Microsoft takes care of the rest, which is great.
Wow, that's so much better than when I first ran into that at this job about 12 years ago. We had this we had this product, and then they wanted to start selling it in Canada, and that's when I learned about these Canadian rules. And I specifically had to do these weird things, with the proxy servers and things like that, because of that, because Canada, not only the data resides in Canada, but it can't leave, that geolocation. And we, this was before the cloud. And so, what did we do? We had to go to Canada or pay a colo. We had to set up servers in Canada just to get this working. But now with Azure, it's a checkbox.
Yeah, and same thing with the networking side of things. You can also do that with private links, making sure that nothing actually goes into the public internet, even if it's in the cloud. So yeah, I'm just very grateful for Azure. Made my life easier. That's for sure.
Yeah, because dealing with these geolocation, the data location stuff can be a real nightmare. Believe me, and it's a lot of work. Once you start, branching out into these different countries or regions, it really makes your job tough. Especially as a developer. I don't know about you, but as a developer, it makes our job a lot tougher when you do this stuff like that. Yeah.
But you also have that's also a good thing about the cloud, because if you want to have worldwide applications or something, it's so easy to have that geo replication. So it's both things. It's easier to make sure that it doesn't leave that region, but it's also easier to have availability across the world, which is so
which makes the experience better for your users, because now they're not a person in Japan's not coming all the way to America and back to get the data. They're going to the the data location in or the cloud location in Japan, right? Yeah. It's better for everybody. It costs more, of course, but it's a better experience for your users because they pay the bills, right? So one of the last questions I was going to ask you is about how you like being an MVP, but you kind of answered that already. So before I let you go, and I really appreciate you being on the show. It's been a pleasure having you on the show, and I can't wait to meet you in person and learn more about Azure data lakes and stuff, because I'm definitely out of the loop with that stuff. But there's two questions I ask all my guests before they go, and the first one is always most of us do our job because we do it for because we like doing it. But what do you do for fun?
So I'm pretty much a full-time geek. I spent all summer during my vacation building my website, so that is fun. But the one thing that I have outside of that is I bought a house last summer, and I'm renovating it mostly on my own with a little help from my parents. So I'm tearing down walls and scraping wallpaper and painting and building, and it's really nice to have something physical, especially if you're frustrated. If you can tear down a wall with a sledgehammer, I can highly recommend that. But yeah, just something that is physical and off screen, basically, and make things pretty. So I still have more rooms to go, including my office, but one room at the time.
Yeah, I'm basically remodeling my place too. I before my son came a couple of weeks ago with his wife, I redid my master bathroom and sliced my finger open in the process and had to get stitches. But I like doing that stuff. I've always been kind of a handyman kind of person, and I've always been able to build things and tear things apart too. And so I enjoy doing that stuff too. It can be kind of stressful, but my biggest problem is, well, do I work on the remodel, or do I write something new for C# Corner? And usually writing and programming win, or do I play guitar? And so it's tough for me to make it a priority. But
sometimes you can work on things while doing something physical, and that might be the break you need to solve a problem.
Yes. I solve so many problems when I completely do something different. You're definitely right with that. And besides your website, what do you have anything to plug before you go?
No, honestly, on my website, Twitter and my website and my speaking engagements, I think it's all on there.
Yeah. Well, cool. So. Well, again, I'm really glad you were able to be on my anniversary show, and It's been a pleasure speaking with you. And like I said, if you ever want to come to San Diego, I'll be your tour guide. And if I ever get to Norway, I want to hang out. And if the next time we have an MVP summit, I'd like to at least hang out, have a coffee with you too.
Definitely. Thank you so much for inviting me and for having me on this anniversary show. It's been the highlight of my week. So thank you for that.
Wow, that makes me feel really special. So if you want to hang out for after the show, you can. But otherwise, thank you very much for spending your evening with us and teaching the people who have been on the show and will watch the show in the next coming days. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, that was a great interview. I don't think I could have asked for a better one for my anniversary show. Even though it might be dark and rainy in Norway, it didn't look like it. I know she had her windows closed, but Mahesh said everybody's remodeling these days. Yeah, because Mahesh, we don't have anything else to do. So yeah, we're all remodeling these days. So I think the next thing we're going to do is some prize giveaways. Are they working now, Simon? Yep. Okay. So let's do the first one first. So the first one will be for my code performance book and swag. So you want to pick the winners, Simon? And it can't be you. Or C# Corner. You have to fix your code to take you out of that, Simon. Deepak, you're the winner of my code performance book and swag. So make sure, and we write down your name, make sure you contact me and so I can get that shipped to you. Gonna write down your name there. And all right, so you won my code performance book and other swag I can put in the package for you, which will probably take forever to get to you, but I'll get it out this coming week. And let's do the next giveaway, which is swag and my coding standards book, the biggest book I've ever self-published. So let's give that away. Okay, Simon, you got to fix your code. You got to take you and C# Corner out of it. Ganesh, if I pronounce that right, please make sure you contact me. Let me write down your name, and I will send you my coding standards book and some other swag. And actually, I will send you my coding standards book and my code performance book. How about that? For being the second prize giveaway. All right. So the next giveaway will be at the end of the show where we're going to give away 100 Stratus bucks. So make sure you tweet or put in the chat Rockin Code World 20 pound, Rockin Code World 21, not Rocking Code World, Rockin Code World 21. And you can win some cryptocurrency at the end of the show. So I think is a very special, excuse me, maybe I shouldn't drink ginger beer during my show. The next is my very special, I think is, nope. Next is everybody wins a copy of Code Rush from DevExpress. Code Rush is the only refactoring tool I've ever used in Visual Studio. I use it every day, and actually all the code work I've been doing at my new contract, I use Code Rush almost every minute of the day lately, and it allows me to be such a better programmer and more productive programmer. So if you want to be better and more productive, go to devexpress.com/dotNetDave and download your real copy. It's not a stripped down copy or features are turned off. It's a real copy of Code Rush. And if you download it, please make sure you let me know your experience with Code Rush. Or if you have any questions, I've been using it for since Visual Studio has been around. So anyway, so now we have a a special new code rules. It's a little bit long today, but you'll understand why. And I will warn you, maybe the kids should not be in the room. No, just kidding. I'm really ranting in this one, so let's go. What? Oh, Simon said, wait, it won't play. What? That'll build up and now it won't play? All right. All right. So my new code rules is based off of something that I don't want to spoil it, but it's something that every one of you need to watch. And if you're a .NET software engineer, maybe Cathrine doesn't need to watch, but if you're a .NET software engineer, you need to watch this episode. And the very cool thing with this episode is that this episode also comes with, I've written 3 articles that actually go along with this episode. The first one was just released today on C# Corner, and I just checked, and already in just a few hours, it's been read 1,500 times already. So I'm really happy about that, because every .NET software engineer, no matter what level you are, need to read these articles. And you need to read, you need to watch new code rules. And, since I'm blowing a little bit of time, Simon said we're ready now. And I need people at Microsoft to watch this one too, because I'm talking not only to you as developers, but I'm talking to the .NET Runtime team and the Visual Studio team in this one. So let's go. Welcome, geeks, to another new code rules. If you watched new code rules before, you know that I rant in this segment. But today is going to be extreme ranting. And here's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm convinced that far too many .NET software engineers do not understand how memory management works when it comes to disposable objects. This is a serious issue that all .NET developers must be concerned with. And managers and dev leads, you really, really need to be concerned about this. The issue is that not taking care of disposable issues in memory management can lead to performance issues. Really, really big performance issues. If you don't take care of this correctly, the garbage collector has to do a lot more work, which can actually suspend your application for a period of time. .NET has done a lot of work in the last 20 years to make this better, but still, this can happen. But the biggest issue is this will lead to virtual memory leaks. .NET doesn't have memory leaks like in C++. We have virtual memory leaks. And this can lead to services, including IIS application pools, just stop working and you have to reboot. Whenever I talk to companies and I first see their code base, and I usually see disposable issues, the first question I ask them is, do you have any services or servers on your back end that you have to reboot every once in a while and you have no idea why? Almost 100% of the time they say yes. And my answer is, I know exactly why. And this is the issue. And of course, this can crash desktop and mobile apps too. Virtual memory leaks can just stop any app. The reason I'm ranting really hard this time is because I am tired of fixing these issues in your code. I'd rather be working on features. Do you think I like fixing your code because you don't understand how memory management works in .NET? I'm sick and tired of it. I don't want to do it anymore. But it seems when I'm hired into a team, I'm the only one that really understands. So guess who gets stuck spending sometimes many months just fixing this single issue? Me. And I'm tired of it. You know me, I like to give real world examples. And I'm about to give you a real world example that you might think I made up, but I didn't. So the solution I'm going to talk about has a little bit over about 1 million lines of source code. In that source code, I've found over 600 places, yes, 600 places where dispose was not being called correctly on disposable types. On top of that, I found 90 classes that did not implement iDisposable when they needed to, or did not implement iDisposable properly. And actually, there were some classes that did implement iDisposable, but not a single one did it properly. Just think how long it takes somebody to fix over 90 classes with this issue. But you have to remember that fixing those 90 classes actually caused over 2,000 places in code that I had to fix. So as you can guess, this almost 3,000 places that has to be fixed has to be code reviewed, tested, including regression testing, and deployed. Just think how expensive this is. If it was just done right the first time, the expense would be almost nothing. But fixing it years later down the road is horribly expensive and horribly time consuming. I also found some more issues. I found some classes that implemented iDisposable when there was nothing to dispose of. And as usual, once somebody does this incorrectly and people start copying, pasting code around their solution, which I'm against, but if they do, guess what? This causes many, many more times. I think I found one place that was duplicating the exact same disposable issue like 68 times because someone did it wrong the first time and then copied it all over the place. Either that person did it or somebody else did it. So this sets up a really bad example for developers in your team or developers that will be hired in your team. Now, do you understand why I'm frustrated and why I'm really ranting hard this week? It's because of this issue. Like I said, I'd much rather be adding features to a program. Features is what sells a program. Fixing iDisposable issues doesn't really sell a program. You don't put that in marketing. I hope after this new code rules, you will be frustrated too with this issue. I have yet to look at a code base that took care of 100% of the dispose issues. I'm just very frustrated that .NET's been here for 20 years and these mistakes are still happening over and over again, written by supposedly senior software engineers. If you call yourself a senior software engineer and you don't understand how the memory management works in .NET, you are not a senior software engineer in .NET. And believe me, I wish .NET was one of those languages, if one even exists, that you never even have to worry about memory because the language just takes care of it for you. Maybe there's a language out there like that. I'm not sure. But .NET is not that language, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. So you must go out and learn about exactly how the heap works and how the stack works and how the garbage collector works in .NET. You have to know these things. You have to become an expert. I don't know how to say that any stronger than I'm saying it in this new code rules. So the call to action for this new code rules is the .NET compiler team and the runtime team must figure out a way how to take the developer out of this equation. So I'm calling on the .NET team, and I know who you are. Some of you are my friends. I'm calling on the .NET team to take us out of the equation because we don't do it correctly. You have to save us from ourselves. I have no idea how this can be done in .NET. That's really up to the teams. But there must be a way to look at a variable that holds an iDisposable type and look everywhere that variable is used and find out if dispose is being called on it, and if not, just add it to the IL code. So will this ever happen in .NET? I have no idea. It's not going to happen in .NET 6. If it does happen, it probably won't be 7 either. So in the meantime, Visual Studio analyzers and other third-party tools must figure out a way to find 100% of disposable issues. I've been dealing with this for 20 years and have yet to find a tool or an analyzer or FXCOP or anything that finds 100% of the issues. Nothing does it. To me, the only way to find all the issues is to run a memory profiler against your running code and then analyze that report. That will find all the issues as long as if you touch everything in your code. Nothing will find 100%. It still boils down to using your eyes. Also, in the meantime, if someone does have a variable, field, whatever, that holds a disposable type, I wish Visual Studio would color that some other color like red, or put an icon next to it to alert us, like a little trash can icon. I don't know. There has to be a way to easily see this in code because developers are not seeing it. I can see it pretty easy because I've been fixing these issues for 20 years. Also, Visual Studio and the compilers must prevent code like this line. The problem with this line of code is the new string reader. String reader is a disposable type in .NET. The problem is when you new it up in a line like this, it doesn't get disposed. And in this code base, I found this all over the place. So to me, code like this should break the build. And Visual Studio and the compilers need to figure out how to do this. So in the meantime, I'm writing 3 articles. The first one will be out by the time you see this new code rules. And in these articles, I'm going to distill down exactly what you need in as easy terms as I can make it for you to understand. And I'm going to pinpoint the areas and things you really need to look at, because when I look at a new code base, these are the places I look. And if I see it once in the code, then it's probably all over the code and I'm going to be stuck doing weeks or months of fixing it. I hope you'll check these articles out on C# Corner and my website, dotnettips.com. So that's it for new code rules for this week. I hope you liked it. I hope I made my point very clear, especially you people, Visual Studio and the .NET team. I hope I made this very clear to you that we have to fix this. Call me. So let me know what you think. You can email me at rockincodeworld@csharpcorner.com. And if you want to watch any of the older episodes of New Code Rules, you can go to that URL there. So as soon as you're done watching this, go to your solution at work and start analyzing it for disposable issues. If you have a question, please reach out to me. I will help you as much as I can. But we have to get this fixed, and you have to fix your code while we're waiting for hopefully Microsoft to take developers out of the equation of memory management, because we're not doing it correctly after 20 years. See you next time on New Code Rules. I got a lot of comments for that video in the chat, so I appreciate everybody who's been talking about this video. I worked really hard on it, and because I tried really hard to get my point across, and even Cathrine said she was clear for her. So if a data person understood it, then everybody else can understand it. So thank you very much. So the first article, like I said, is out already. I'm already done with the second one, which will be out soon. And then I need to do the third one, and that'll be soon after that. So I hope you'll stay tuned at the C# Corner to read those articles. And please have everybody on your team read these articles. Everybody on your team needs to read these if you're a .NET software engineer. And in the video, I talked about, coloring those variables a different color or something like that. And actually, Mark Miller there in the sunglasses, I've already been talking to him because he's the guy behind CodeRush. And I'm hoping to maybe we can get that into CodeRush to color it or put a little icon next to those variables to make it very clear to you these variables you need to worry about, because those numbers I gave you in that video are not correct. They're actually worse. And but I didn't want to go that far, and I didn't want to get in trouble for the people who wrote that code. So those aren't the correct numbers. They're low. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that New Code Rules. And before I forget, Sherry joined late and sent me a couple questions through chat. So Sherry, if you will reach out to me at dotnetdave@live.com, I can help you out because, we're already over time for the show. So I can't really talk about that stuff on the show. Okay. So anyway, I hope you like the new code rules. So now it's our final winner time. And this person will win $100 in Stratus Bucks, which Mahesh says is worth about $200. And so let's draw. See, Simon, I told you, you and C# Corner have to be taken out of this list. Oh, Deepak won again. Okay, so you also won $100. So congratulations, and that's what everybody gets for not sending out that tag and they didn't win. So that's the way it goes. So thank you for watching. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy those bucks. So my next show is going to feature my first mixed reality software architect. So I'm really excited about that. I forget which countries he's from. He's from Europe someplace. So that'll be exciting for next week. And talking about the upcoming weeks is that I'm already scheduling speakers out into December already, which I'm really happy because the least part of this job I like is trying to get speakers to come on the show. I'm not speakers, but get people to come on the show. So I have some really exciting speakers coming in the next couple of months through the end of the year. And I want to, I did do a tweet about this. And in 2 weeks, I'm going to have my first panel discussion show. So it's going to be a show all about Agile. And we're going to be talking about the goods and the bads of Agile, maybe where Agile should go. We're actually having a meeting Monday about it to decide what we're going to talk about. But it's going to be a really fun show. So far, I have 3 panelists. It might be 4. And if I get the 4th one, he's actually a certified Scrum Master. So that'll be exciting if his wife will let him come on the show. Anyway, I'm excited about that one because it'll be my first panel discussion show. I'm looking forward to that. So make sure you're back here every Saturday to the end of the year, and we'll have lots of great things in store for you. The COVID pandemic is still not going good. The numbers are coming down here in America, but we're getting into the flu season. We're getting into winter, and things might go bad again. So please be safe out there. I don't want to lose any more of my followers and any more of my friends. And so please be safe out there. Please listen to your medical professionals. And to give back, please go donate blood, because all the blood banks around the world in a dire need of blood right now because of all the stuff that's been going on lately. So please go donate blood. It makes you feel good, and it gets you out of housework for a day. So why not? And so with that, thanks everybody for being on the anniversary show. I can't wait to the anniversary. I can't wait for the anniversary show next year. And it's been an amazing ride. And thanks again to Mahesh and his team for allowing me to do the show. And I'll see you next week on Rockin the Code World with dotNetDave.